Usually, when the football season is over, Panther fans immediately start to size up the roster for next year. With a graduating Kenny Pickett, quarterback would be the biggest area of concern in 2021. But all of a sudden, on a cold Tuesday night in December, big man on campus, Kenny Pickett, told the whole world that he would be back for one more year. We discuss that and so much more on this week's Hail to Pitt podcast.
What was your message about finishing it in these final 30 minutes?
Well, it happened in West Virginia where we knocked off number 2. It happened in South Carolina, and it's happening in Pittsburgh today.
Our guys had a lot of guts tonight. We're just going to keep getting better. I mean, that's what it is.
One hell of a game that you will never, ever forget. We shocked the world!
Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt. This is the week of December 19th, 2020. This is the Hail to Pitt podcast. I'm Alan.
I'm Vince.
And I'm Pam.
Good riddance COVID season. Pitt closed out its 2020 campaign with a 34-20 victory over the Ramblin' Wreck from Georgia Tech. Panthers have chosen not to participate in a bowl game. So now it's all about those 3 R's that Vince constantly hammers into our heads. Recruit, recruit, recruit. Oh, and also the fact that the big man on campus is coming back. Kenny Pickett, you don't got to lie to Pickett because you just tell him, hey, come back. And he says, all right, man, I'm there. Pitt's getting their quarterback back. Vince?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. We all thought he was gone. Just talking about, what's the offense going to look like next year with Kenny Pickett not under center. We're getting ready for this big national signing day, looking at the new recruits, and then all of a sudden, Kenny Pickett tells the whole world he's coming back for one more year, Pam.
One more year, and this is the best news Panther fans could hope for. There's a lot of ups and downs and disappointment this year, but this is some positivity we can cling on to until next August or September when the season starts up again.
It's definitely good news, but there's other news to talk about that might not let that sit so well, at least from my perspective. We're going to get into all of it. The Kenny Pickett return, the Georgia Tech win. We're going to talk some hoops today. We're going to talk about Pitt declining a bowl game. We're talking about National Signing Day. It's kind of a jumbo-sized show today, I'd say, Vince. This is a pretty big one. There's a lot going on for the season having just ended.
Oh, my goodness. I was telling Pam earlier today that this show could easily be 5 hours.
Don't worry, it won't be. It will not be. I'll keep the reins on it.
Well, go ahead and disappoint the listeners, but we're going to try to get as much as we can into it today.
Yeah, Pam won't let us, and neither will. This is, for everybody, for the record, it's the last show that I am going to be under the supervision of my in-laws. So this is if it was next week, this show would definitely be 5 hours, Vince. But we are being watched and timed right now, so we better get things started.
Yeah, let's get right to it.
All right, let's rock. At H2P shows where you could follow us on Twitter. Got to let everybody know about that. We're on Twitter. We're talking Pitt with you there in social media, of course, because that's what you got to do in 2020 throughout the week. And, of course, if you want to email old school style, which is funny to say, hail the number 2 Pitt podcast at gmail.com. And, of course, we're on Panther Lair. We are on Reddit. And we are brought to you by Pretty Easy Podcasts. You can go to prettyeasypodcasts.com right now and get your own podcast started today. If you're a business professional looking to market yourself and your company, a podcast is a great way to do it. Go to prettyeasypodcasts.com now to get your own producer, get yourself set up, start podcasting, start promoting yourself, start getting some followers, some listeners, some money. It's all part of doing business in 2020, and Pretty Easy Podcasts makes it pretty easy. All right, we'll start with Georgia Tech. A big win last week. I feel like I don't remember my score I predicted, Pam, but I feel like I was close with the 34-20. It was pretty dominant, I would say, but not in any sort of way we anticipated, because I know as much as you love Vincent Davis, old Bushwick Bill himself, you did not anticipate 247 yards from the running back.
No, not at all. But it was a great way to end the season, especially since the running game's been struggling. It definitely picked up as the season went on, but a great boost of confidence for him going into the end of the year. Great boost of confidence for this offensive line going into the end of the year as well. And what, Vince, was it about the running game in this game compared to other games, or even later in the season? It definitely improved. And how can they use that for next year?
It's interesting in that, 3 out of their last 4 games that they won, each of them by double digits and scoring, at least 34 points in each one. Some of these games winning by 30 points. The Clemson game aside, yes, they were against, lackluster competition. Some of the easier teams that they had on their schedule, but they did extremely well running the ball. I got to go back and review this tape a little bit more, but one thing I will say is that the personnel was different.
Absolutely,
on the offensive line, and it kind of started when you had guys out for COVID protocols, and you had to really shuffle your offensive line around and get different combinations in there. For one, Matt Goncalves, this guy stepping in at left tackle. I thought he was going to be more of a guard, but he got in there. He showed good feet, and he was able to just seal that edge, constantly against his man the past couple games. Some other offensive linemen in there, moving guys different positions. I think that was absolutely huge in opening up these bigger holes for Vincent Davis, and he showed the ability to find them. Was it something different with the play calling? Maybe. We've got to go back and take a look at some of these play designs and see if they were drastically different than earlier in the season. But that personnel was different. There, if you're run blocking better, if you're moving your guys out of the way, Alan, there is that'll jump right off the film at you, and you got to be excited about that.
Yeah, I have to watch this game back to see the difference in the offensive line. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, quite frankly. I really am hoping this is just a big leap forward in one game for the Pitt offensive line and not just an inferior opponent. But I don't know. I don't know what to really say about this other than Vincent Davis. I feel like he was capable of something like this for a long time, and we finally got to see it, so I was super happy for him. It was awesome to see. And then actually the kid has personality. One of the best post-game interviews we've seen from anyone at Pitt in a long time. Maybe I'd say since the best since Narduzzi post-UCF game. Everybody has to check that out. We'll insert it into the show if we could find a clean version of it right here.
We got to quarantine all that now. You feel me? But we finna get lit tonight, yeah.
Because it was awesome. Vincent Davis talking about getting lit on the airplane, but the offensive line suffering some COVIDness, some injuries, so they mix and mash, and out comes a 247-yard running back. I don't know, but maybe they were holding the whole time, and that's why Jeff Collins wouldn't shake Pat Narduzzi's hand, Vince. Maybe that's what happened.
I don't know if it was necessarily that. There was some, I guess maybe, I don't know if you want to call it rather sloppy officiating in this. I saw some people talk about how this is what it feels like to benefit from poor officiating in the ACC.
A quick Jeff Collins note. I just read earlier today that he's converting one of their linebackers to a quarterback next year so that they have 4 scholarship quarterbacks on their roster. So just a definite, the kid played quarterback in high school, but still, that's not a transition you usually see from linebacker to quarterback. So Jeff Collins is definitely a unique character. And, I don't think Pat Narduzzi did anything wrong or Pitt did anything wrong. I think Jeff Collins was just pissy.
like even if the refs handed the game to Pitt, what are you mad at Pat Narduzzi about it for? I mean, what do you want him to decline penalties and stuff? What the hell?
I mean, yeah, this game was not a blowout by any stretch, but at the same time, I don't think Pitt was in much danger of losing this game for most of it. But this guy, this Collins, he's a wacko from everything I'm seeing. And I'm not surprised other teams run the score up against him. And I think he spells his name Geoff. Never trust anybody with that spelling.
There's a whole thing going on there. I want to say also, is this the first game Jordan Addison played that he didn't lead the team in receiving? This has to be. At least I don't know how. I mean, we got to go back.
Well,
and
DJ
look,
Turner had that.
But Addison didn't play that game. That Turner had that big game.
Yeah, you're true. Very, very true.
I think you might be right.
And maybe week 1 too, though, Pam. I think DJ Turner might have outperformed Jordan Addison. They both were on the same field, but that was cool. I also want to thank DJ Turner's gone, right? He was a one and done transfer.
He maybe.
Should we thank him for his service?
Well, initially that was the case, but
he posted something.
There are some rumblings about now that Mr. Pickett is going to be returning, that he may be changing his mind, which we will. I'm sure we'll be finding that out in the next week or so. So next week,
the big man on campus says he's back, and let all the dominoes fall after that. There's all sorts of people who are thinking about transferring or graduating, and now they're totally changing their plans, all because the guy with the best hair in the ACC and maybe all of college football is coming back.
He's a modern day Pied Piper, and next week we will be giving our season review, full season review. Of the 2020 season, and we'll be looking more, giving some outlook for the 2021 season. But right now this has really thrown a wrench into this whole situation with having to replace not just a quarterback but a receiver that you relied heavily on this year. And that might all be changing around.
Yeah, that is insane to think. We were kind of looking at a doom and gloom type episode this week with players leaving, and the last time we saw some people. That outlook is good. What we saw from the Pitt offensive line in this game was good. What we saw from the Pitt defensive line all season long pretty much was good, and what we expect is maybe even better when we get into some recruiting talk, Vince. So I'm really optimistic coming out of this game. And also, Pitt won the last 3 quarters of that game score-wise, and I said it last week jokingly, but Pitt accumulating more quarters over the end of this season too, taking it really baby steps in this season, because you could tell there was a part of this season, it's not a whole season review yet, Pam, but there was a moment where you saw Pitt was maybe believing a little bit of their own hype for a while. They were brought back down to earth. This game showed them ready to do work, I think, come 2021 in hopefully a post-pandemic season.
Yeah, I mean, they won the turnover battle here. It's always nice. I mean, Georgia Tech is a bad opponent, but they came out and they did what they needed to do here, and different parts of the team that were struggling look good. So it's a good way to end the season. On a high note.
Yeah, and this seems like how Pat Narduzzi would prefer to play. Held the ball for 37 minutes, won the turnover battle. Had a great day from your running back, and to do this, I know Georgia Tech is not necessarily some powerhouse offense, but you didn't have DeMar Hamlin back there, your leader, your defense. You didn't have Rashad Weaver, one of your best defensive ends. So you're playing a lot of younger guys who you're really going to need to rely on next year, guys getting a lot of experience. I think that bodes well for the defense. We had a lot of hype for the defense this year. We'll talk about more how they did last week, but seeing some of these younger guys really come in there and perform well is good news for next season.
Yeah, and we of course are gonna. I think we'll be delving into some of this in just a moment. I want to talk about skipping the bowl, but also note that they did have to kick 4 field goals in this game. You don't want to ever have to kick that many field goals to win a football game. Pitt did, and that might speak to the offensive coordinating situation. Let's talk about that in a second, though. What about declining the bowl season, which a lot of teams are doing, Pam? I have Heather-like statement right here. Let me read it to you. Our football student athletes' sacrifice and commitment have been extraordinary. Amen to that. This season has been an especially taxing experience physically and mentally on and off the field. Despite this unprecedented environment, our team finished strong, concluding with last night's win at Georgia Tech. We are thankful and proud of how they handled the past 6 months and want them to have a well-deserved, restful holiday season with their families and loved ones. We're in a pandemic. We're going to play a whole season, but we'll skip the bowl game is basically what that sums up to be. I'm hoping these players get sent their PS5s at least, Pam, because they're missing out on all the cool swag from a bowl game.
Well, the whole bowl experience is going to be different. They don't get to go somewhere warm and hang out on a beach for a few days. Like, everything's different. I am so happy they're skipping the bowl game. Let these kids, unpaid student athletes, go home, be with their families, be with their friends in a safe environment, and kind of just relax. Like, the mental toll, I mean, I think we all can feel it personally, let alone being a student athlete and being so isolated at times from anyone in the outside world, is just tough. So good for them. Good for Pitt. I'm happy they made the right decision and was the second or third team to do it.
Yeah, so. Yeah, and there's more each and every day that are that are choosing not to participate in the bowl season. There are more bowls each and every day that are canceling their games. One quick note, you talked about going somewhere warm on a beach. It's very possible that Pitt would have been playing a bowl game in Baltimore, Maryland, or New York City.
But still,
the players themselves, and Charlie Partridge tweeted this out, that the players voted whether to play or not. It sounds like it was mostly their decision, and the coaches and the administration supported them. These bowl games are nothing more than glorified exhibition matches, as far as I'm concerned. People get excited about whether Pitt wins the bowl game or loses the bowl game. To me, it doesn't really matter that much. Now, if you're talking,
I honestly, year to year, forget whether or not the previous year we even won our bowl game. I definitely remember the final ACC game more.
Now, if you're talking about a big bowl game, Pam, I know you're going to want to hold me to this, but if you're talking about a New Year's Six Bowl or New Year's Day Bowl, I think that's a little bit different, and where the result does matter a little bit more. But if you're talking about the Pinstripe Bowl or the Military Bowl,
Tax Slayer,
the Tax Slayer, the Gator Bowl, that's a big one. But if you're talking about the Mayonnaise Bowl, those to me don't matter that much.
Okay, so Al, for next December, we can clip this off, and hopefully COVID will be more under control, and we can watch next year's bowl game together. And when Vince gets all riled up because Pitt is losing or things aren't going well, we can play him that clip that he says it doesn't matter if they win or lose. Okay.
I'll have it on deck. I mean, it's good to get excited just because Pitt's playing, but in the end, he's I think he's right. I mean, but
he's right, but he doesn't act like that during bowl games.
Well, if you're going to play in it, you might as well win.
You got to go all in. Yeah, it's the mentality. Yeah, for sure.
But you got to question the motivation of some of these teams when they're playing in these bowl games. More and more each year, there's star players choosing to sit out, and you got to wonder how serious some of these teams are taking it. Now, I'll tell you something right now. If Pitt was going to be playing in the Orange Bowl or something like that this year, I don't think these players would be choosing to skip it. But I'm okay with it, with where the season was, with what these players had to go through. I'm perfectly fine. And I'm hoping, and I know this is not going to happen, but I'm hoping that, college football sees this and reduces the number of bowls, and that seeing that, since they didn't have them, they really didn't matter that much. But there's there's probably very little chance of that happening.
Yeah, right. Next year, they're probably going to have double bowl games and make up bowl games and have teams playing 2 bowl games. That's what's going to happen. Yeah, freaking right. Lessening the amount of bowls. No way. All right, let's talk about it. The man of the hour, the big man on campus, tweeted out at Kenny Pickett 10 on Twitter, 1 more year. Hashtag H2P. And he put a real, just a picturesque big man on campus selfie of him. Well, it wasn't a selfie, but a picture of himself to get Pitt fans hyped. Kenny Pickett coming back. Level of surprise, Pam. What does it mean? Where are we at now with our quarterback coming back, senior leadership at Pitt? A guy some people thought had a shot at the draft.
I'm shocked, but good for him if he thinks this is the right decision. If he would have left, that would have been the right decision. Whatever he wants to do, we need to support these student athletes. But it means a lot to Pitt that he's coming back. It would have been a little struggle watching because the little glimpses we got this year of the backup quarterbacks weren't great. I mean, they were in tough positions, but I think some of those guys, another year of development, another year of Pickett's leadership, and I think it's going to have a trickle-down effect on the rest of the team. And, we'll see what some guys, if they could have left, if they're coming back. I think it means a lot of really good things for Pitt, and I think it raises those expectations even more, which might not be good because then we might get disappointed hard. But it's hard to say without the schedule and not sure everyone who's coming back, but it definitely raises expectations, like multiple win expectations.
Absolutely. I mean, if you looked at, and it's very possible that if Kenny Pickett was going to the draft, that the quarterback room would have been shaken up even more, maybe even some more additions. People were speculating, but the fact that he is coming back, that was the probably the biggest mystery area for the roster next year. And now you got this guy who's played, excellent football more often than not. I know his last couple games here with the Panthers were not his best, but I thought he played pretty well this season. And to have him back is just absolutely huge. Like you said, Pam, there wasn't a whole lot of confidence in the guys behind him. And
I don't know how much of the soft toss in Joey Yellen maybe he should convert to linebacker.
I will say this
with some of the throws we saw.
Well, I will say this, at least one of those guys, Patty, Bevel, and Yellen, at least one of those guys will be gone. I feel confident saying that, maybe 2, because we do have prep quarterback Nate Yarnell signing with Pitt today. So that's at least, 2 guys there. You got maybe your quarterback of the future, your quarterback of the present, and those guys in the middle, hard to say. Hard to say what's going to happen for them, but it is certainly a crowded room. No doubt about that.
Kenny Pickett coming back. I'm really excited. I'm so pumped because that leadership's very important in college football. But I don't know how much it means if the Whipple regime stays intact. That's the real question on everybody's mind. Nobody expected Kenny Pickett to come back, really. When you even hear a rumbling of NFL in your name, usually you go now. Maybe he was saying, you know what, XFL's in 2022. I'll get ready for that. I don't know. I don't know what Kenny was thinking, but it couldn't have been, Coach Whipple's going to stay and I want to be playing for him, running to the sidelines every single second next year. Pam, did it or does it? I don't know. You would think that a guy's coming back because he knows all the same coaches are going to be back. So if you wanted Whipple gone, I don't know how confident that I am in that happening anymore.
Yeah, I don't know, because we saw early in Pickett's career, like the change in offensive coordinators and just guys in general in Pitt over time having so many different offensive coordinators. We're not happy with Whipple, but at least it's consistent. I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I think Whipple will be there to stay, honestly.
Well, I'll say this. Yeah, I mean, if you're Kenny Pickett, would you want to come back and have to learn a new system and could possibly hurt your draft stock. Not that it was super high, but I suppose it could get worse if you got to learn a new system and you're putting in some bad situations. So you got to think Whipple is coming back, you would think. Now, let me propose this to both of you. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are. Say Whipple comes back, but his only work that he does is just with the quarterbacks, and maybe Coach Beatty, the wide receiver coach, maybe he's promoted to a co-offensive coordinator, and maybe he does all the play calling. Or maybe they shuffle up some of their coaches. Maybe a coach is let go, and they bring in an offensive coordinator, and Whipple is still just designated as the quarterback coach, only going to work with the quarterback. So do you see a scenario like that, and do you think that would be an improvement?
Well, would Whipple agree to that at this point in his career? I don't know.
I would say that he would.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because this guy has been, he's been around a long time, and I think he'd maybe be willing to, I don't know him personally, but maybe he'd be willing to just, make his mark on the program with just concentrating on those quarterbacks and getting those guys ready. Because maybe that's what he's best at. And then you give the play calling responsibilities to somebody else. I'm sure he'll be involved in the game planning, but you could see maybe the play calling being shifted over. And I wonder, the play calling, it seemed like that they were running the ball a whole lot more in those last few games, the Clemson game aside, was maybe, there was some influence from some other coaches on the staff. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But I could see a situation where he is just working with the quarterbacks, and maybe that's what got Kenny Pickett to return.
I would love that, and I would root for that, because that is what Mark Whipple's best at. He's been great at it his whole career. As a play caller, he's had success too, and even with Pitt for a while, but just the last about season and a half, I'd say, has just been really frustrating as a fan. So I think the scenario you painted, Vince, with Coach B calling plays, Whipple working exclusively with Pickett, Yarnell, and the other QBs, that's what I'm all about. That's what I'm hoping happens. But I don't know, because I don't know Whipple personally. From what I've seen, he seems like a pretty selfless, team-focused kind of coach. He hasn't made crazy leaps for jobs, leaving people high and dry or anything. So I don't know what to expect. That's going to be the thing we watch closest as fans of Pitt football this offseason, now that we know Kenny Pickett's back. We're signing days here. This is all this stuff is now kind of going into the rear view. What we focus on now is what the hell is going to go on with the offensive play calling next year, something that we really are hoping gets cleaned up, and focus more on what we saw in this Georgia Tech game, the run game, Pam, and the offensive line's development.
Yeah, absolutely. Continue to move those areas of the offense forward, and then it'll allow Pickett to be more successful.
Yeah, and we're just proposing this about Whipple. We don't know. We're just guessing of different things that they might do. It seems pretty obvious he's coming back.
Yeah.
But if you're Pitt and you tell Whipple, hey, we're going to keep you at your same salary, but we're going to reduce maybe some of your responsibilities so you could focus and really excel in a certain area, I think that's, to me, that's a win-win for both parties there. So I hope that's what happens. We do need to see some more dynamic play calling, like you said, Alan, specifically in the run game.
Yeah, help us transition to a new kind of offensive scheme and regime, but we don't want to get rid of you. That's happened in other places before. So let's see if it happens, or let's just see if it's more of the same and just super frustrating, because when you have a defensive line that's going to really make splash plays all the time and give you chances to succeed on offense, and you don't, people need to pay the price for not delivering with those opportunities. This year, you would have said it was Mark Whipple and Kenny Pickett coming back. Pat Narduzzi seems to have confidence in him. We'll see what happens there. But really kind of an unexpected point we're at here. Halfway through December, season's over. no bowl game to look forward to. This is like all on my mind now. Mark Whipple, and that's exactly what the Pitternet was abuzz about too. As soon as Pickett said, oh my God, does this mean Whipple's back too? Was a lot of the reaction I saw. So we'll see. It's all we can. And if you have any other scenarios to paint in the future, let us know at H2P Show on Twitter. What do you think happens with the Pitt offensive play calling next year now that Kenny Pickett's back? More of the same? Something Vince said there. I like those ideas, Vince, but it's all part of Pat Narduzzi's off-season planning, I'm sure. Recruiting. Here we go. Signing day, though, Vince. This is why this episode's such a jumbo episode. A lot of new faces, a lot of new players to talk about. The recruiting class pretty high up there, top 25 at least on most of those your rivals and all that. So where's Pitt at overall on most of these spots? Like 20th, 21st, I saw 19th on one.
Yeah, 21st on Rivals.com. One of the most reputable services out there, and probably with good reason. There's a lot to like in these classes. Pam, this
well, real quick, my main question is for all the people who aren't recruit Knicks, who do we care about here that you're going to talk about besides Elliott Donald? That's what everybody's excited.
That's what I was going to ask Pam about here is that, we know about the big local guys that we've seen. We saw, of course, Elliott Donald, Nakai Johnson, Dorian Ford, those guys, at least two of them going to be, just hellraisers on that defensive line. We'll see if Ford, he may move to the offensive line by the time it's all said and done. Last week, we talked about Naquan Brown, an edge rusher, 4 stars out of Virginia Beach, one of the top 5 players in Virginia, top 200 player nationally, commit to Pitt. But who are you looking at, Pam, as some of these other guys that we haven't talked about recently, or it's been a while? They've been recruited, committed for a while, and we haven't talked about them.
Yeah, so I think for me, it's Jayvon Mcintyre, defensive back out of Ematep Charter out of Philadelphia, 3 stars, 6'1", 181. He's got some great offers, good offer sheet. I know Panther fans are always looking at the offer sheet. Schools like Arizona State, WVU, Tennessee, Coastal Carolina, don't sleep on the Chanticleers anymore. Georgia Tech, Iowa State, Michigan State. It seems like a guy that fits right in Narduzzi's scheme, right into that defense, and definitely a depth position guy. So I'm interested to see him develop, especially early on, maybe a guy that might be able to step in or help out with his athleticism.
Yeah, they really went hard in the defensive backs.
Yes.
This recruiting cycle, I thought they went pretty hard at him last year. So, and you think about it with Jason Pinnock moving on, no Paris Ford, no DeMar Hamlin. We'll see what Damari Mathis' future holds. But you need a new influx of talent there. I do like McIntyre. One guy that I can't speak enough about is Khalil Anderson. This has been a guy in the defensive backfield that Pitt fans, if you've been following this, you're maybe a little nervous about losing this guy. I know he's only 3 stars on Rivals.com, but don't let that fool you. Out of the Atlanta area, this kid has some big-time offers: Arkansas, Kansas State, Miami, Michigan State, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Penn State, South Carolina, Minnesota, Duke, Kansas, and a lot of people are worried about Georgia calling for this kid. A lot of people worried about Clemson coming after this kid. But Pitt was able to hold on to him and get him signed. So I think that is just absolutely huge for Pitt to keep this kid that a lot of schools seem to want. And you look at all these defensive backs, Pam, they're going to have a chance to do that and show their stuff early on.
Let me ask you a question, since you're the one who's grinding the tape here on some of these guys. Were there any surprises today? Anyone that we weren't anticipating?
Yes, there were. Another defensive back, ironically, Tamarian Crumpley out of Cincinnati, Ohio, 6'1", 180, 3 stars with offers from Kentucky, Michigan State, Minnesota, WVU, Washington State. So there was a kid there that is one of those big, long, rangy defensive backs that Pat Narduzzi likes in his system, and it seems like he's identified those guys. If you look at all these defensive backs that they got, they're all just about 6 foot or taller. So I'm looking at these guys, and I'm interested to see what positions they end up playing. It seems like they could all be, safeties or cornerbacks by the time it's all said and done. So that's going to be fascinating.
Do you think that Narduzzi wins over a guy like Tamarian Crumpley, beating out schools like Michigan and WVU for a recruit because those schools aren't telling the kids, all right, you're going to get to go out there and you don't have to do anything except just run with a guy, man, the entire game. You'll have no help over the top, but you don't need to learn how to play zone with me. Just tackle and cover people.
You'll be exposed and probably burned a few times, but
you joke, but look
it's
at the
great
guys
prep
that are
for the NFL.
I was going to say, we have Avonte Maddox, a guy that we struggled. I mean, I know that wasn't Narduzzi's original recruit, right?
He was maybe an original class person. I can't
but
remember.
we have Avonte Maddox. I mean, he's been a little banged up for the Eagles.
And Dane Jackson.
Dane Jackson for the Bills. And we got Jordan Whitehead.
Doing very well.
I mean, Pinnock's probably going to get drafted. There you go.
Pinnock and certainly, DeMar Hamlin, Paris Ford, you would expect to see those guys,
So, I mean, they're the scheme, and it's tough to watch it sometimes, but there's definitely development of talent there.
Yeah. I think, as far as, bringing in good guys to play that system, it's doing an excellent job. We talked about the defensive linemen, specifically out of the local area, Donald and Johnson. Those guys are going to be excellent. That they got beating out some very stiff competition. I do want to talk a little bit about the offensive side of the ball, Alan. You talked about offensive line recruiting and how that needs to step up. Well, they got let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Recruits, and then a fifth one expected to sign in February. So they're bringing in some big men on that offensive line to come in there and move some holes. What I do like about some of these guys is, Alan, like a Terrence Rankle, for example, 6'5", 275 pounds. This isn't somebody that's already, 320 pounds. There's some room to grow and fill out those frames there. And that's what I'm excited to see in maybe 2 or 3 years, these guys are ready to go out there and perform.
Yeah. And that's going to be on Pitt strength and conditioning and molding these players into what Pat Narduzzi wants them to do. And that's going to be to hopefully have some sort of running game moving forward. I bet he really liked what he did against Georgia Tech. It makes his defense work a little less harder. Playing man the entire game is not so hard when your offense has it 37 minutes in the game. And then also when you got a quarterback like Nate Yarnold, who's statuesque, he's going to be a pocket passer, right? So they're going to have to be protecting this guy when he finally takes the helm as the next in line behind Kenny Pickett.
6'6", 200 pounds out of Austin, Texas, a tall drink of water.
Is this the famous high school he went to, Lake Travis? Isn't that Drew Brees High School and a couple other NFL quarterbacks?
I was just going to look up Lake Travis High School.
That's what I was about to ask you, Pam, was that, if you're getting a big quarterback out of Texas, you got to be excited for that. You don't see that in Pittsburgh too often.
No, not at all. And I mean, he was recruited mostly offers from Houston, Nevada, Tulsa, Utah. Oh man, Lake Travis, Baker Mayfield. He came out of there. So I'm not sure about Drew Brees trying to find that information out, but Lake Travis definitely good to see some different recruiting states on there, especially Texas quarterbacks. That's like a pedigree there. So.
Well, yeah, that's what I was, I was about to bring up. If you look at, some of the schools that they've plucked kids out of, maybe not necessarily extremely high rated kids, but they come from big time high school programs. Jake Renda, tight end, 6'5", 220 pounds, out of IMG Academy in Florida. We joked last week about getting an average tight end. Well, this kid, he's big. I'm very curious to see how he could perform. And he's coming from a football factory. So that's got to count for something, don't you think?
Oh, man. Could you imagine if Pitt had a tight end like that one UCLA was running out there against the Trojans last week?
Yeah.
Someone who could actually catch onto the ball and run after the catch. And when you're playing at a place like IMG Academy, that's where you go find those types of athletes. Hopefully Renda has the hands. But damn it, it's about time these tight end jokes become a thing of the past. I'm tired of making them.
I hope so. I'm hoping Luke. We didn't really talk about him, and maybe we'll talk about him next week. Lucas Kroll, tight end transfer from Florida, that barely played for Pitt this year, out due to injury. This guy, we were expecting huge things from. He is hyped that Kenny Pickett is coming back. Hopefully that tight end drought is going to end next year. To round out some of these skill position players, they didn't get too many, only 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs. And those are crowded areas right now for the Panthers. But these guys that they got, were wanted by a lot of big time schools. So I'm very excited to see, Rodney Hammond and Malik Newton, 2 running backs, both these guys offered by South Carolina and Penn State and Virginia Tech and WVU and North Carolina. And some of them, Malik Newton's case, offered by Clemson and Louisville and Tennessee, Texas A&M. And Hammond also offered by TCU and Nebraska. So I think, they got some good running backs there. And, outside of Vincent Davis, nobody's really taken control of that backfield. So, we were hoping to see it with Israel Bonaconda this year, Alan. He didn't quite make the impression that we were wanting to see. So it's possible that you could see one of these 2 running backs, really get in there and do some damage. Specifically Malik Newton. This guy is a big running back, 215 pounds. Almost 6 foot tall. You got to turn on his tape. This guy is a hard runner.
Vince killing it right here, Pam. You see how fired up he is on signing day? It's like a holiday right now. And now I'm so excited now for the future of Pitt football after what ultimately next week when we review was not that great of a season. But I am really optimistic right now. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I told Vince, he started to tell me all these things. I said, you got to save it for the show. But he's equally fired up all the time about recruiting. He's
that
always,
youngster's eye.
Yeah. We'll move on here. But before we do, I want to highlight one more player. Jayden Bradley out of DeMatha High School, which is an athletic machine.
Basketball powerhouse.
Yeah, basketball and football.
Didn't James Robinson go there?
Yeah, James Robinson. Yep. Pitt has recruited guys out of DeMatha for quite some time. And this guy didn't have tremendous offers. Coastal Carolina, Liberty, Virginia, Wake Forest. But one thing I do want to point out is this guy's 6'4", 195 pounds. Pitt's wide receiver core, with Jordan Addison and, I guess Taysier Mack coming back, Shockey Jacques Louis coming back, maybe a DJ Turner coming back. But one thing that they don't have a lot of big receivers. Jared Wayne is a big receiver, but, with some of his issues catching the ball, you got to wonder, is he really somebody that you could count on? So I think getting a big receiver in the mix, a bigger receiver in the mix, I think is important. And I'm excited to see if some of these bigger guys can make an impact. It's going to be interesting. I think this is a very solid class. We'll see who they add in February. Hopefully they could add a few more players. But I guess I would say both Alan and Pam that it seems like it's a good mix across all positions. I don't think that they really missed on anything. This is probably one of the more solid recruiting classes that Pat Narduzzi's had.
On paper, and with all those Pat signals going out, I mean, that's absolutely, I'm with you. And that's why I have been hesitant to jump on that. What are we doing here with this regime bandwagon that so many people were getting on in the middle of this season? And I'm pretty hyped for the future. This recruiting class could end up being very good because so many needs seem to be getting met, Vince. And also the breakdown of this recruiting class just now is why this podcast hails to Pitt harder than any other Pitt podcast. Kicking ass right there, good brother. That was amazing.
Yeah, and also we should also give some credit, Pam. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this because a lot of people that we loaf with, they talk about the importance of recruiting in Florida and recruiting in the South. Well, because of the pandemic, that was made very difficult this year. You couldn't get those kids from Florida on your campus. What does Pat Narduzzi do? He identifies some of the best talent he can in the state of Virginia, and he pulls a bunch of guys out of there in the surrounding area. He went to Detroit, Michigan, pulled out a couple guys there. He goes to Ohio, gets a couple guys there. Certainly did well locally. He's got those guys within driving distance. He showed the ability to adapt. I think that's huge. Maybe next year we'll start to see more guys out of the South that everybody covets.
Yeah, I mean, but if you get the best player from a different state, who cares where they're from? They got a quarterback from Texas, so they got an offensive lineman from Utah. So I actually was thinking, wow, and people care about Florida and they care about those local guys, and they got the best local talent locked up. So I think it's great. I'm excited.
And headlined by Elliot, by God, Donald. Although being a recruit in this class, knowing that Elliot Donald's part of it, I mean, it's probably some players that are going to say, hey, I want to step out and be the ace from this class. It's going to be competitive. It's going to be fun to see how they compete against each other for spots when they get into the program. A holiday right here on the Hail to Pitt podcast. Beautiful, beautiful sign day, I'd say, for Pat Narduzzi. Coming off of a win. It's a pretty good December for him, I'd say. I mean, considering where things were at just a few weeks ago. So Pitt football season ends, but of course the season never ends because you got to recruit, and we're covering it all right here on the Hail to Pitt podcast. It would be a 5-hour show if we broke every single player down, Vince. I know you want to, but you've got time to dish more on players in the coming episodes. We got to get into hoops right now, if that's okay.
Especially we're on the clock right now because we got a Pitt basketball game coming up in under an hour as of this live on tape show. The men's basketball team going to be taking on the University of Miami to open up ACC play.
Killing me.
But
killing me. I'm right here. I'm just a hop, skip, and a jump. Not allowed to go to the game. Watching it with my quote unquote Hurricane fan in-laws. They don't give a rat's ass about the U. People down here, they say, oh, they're playing. Oh, I root for them, I guess. They don't know. But we're going to watch the game together and root against each other. It's going to be a lot of fun.
That's called heat culture. I've learned. But Pam, this Pitt basketball team, you called it. You said that this team's got to rebound better, and that rebounding is not about size and height. It's all about effort. And they went out against Northwestern, and they had a big second half comeback, and then they followed it up by dominating Gardner-Webb. And in both those games, they won the rebounding margin by 20 at least. Didn't shoot that great, but whenever you rebound that well, you can be overcoming some of those poor shooting.
Yeah, you get extra chances, or you prevent your opponents from getting extra chances. Obviously, I did not stay up to watch the entire Northwestern game. The very first thing I do after checking the score is checking the rebounding margin. So I told you, Pitt rebounded them by 20. So it was in that Northwestern game, very exciting. Champagnie, back-to-back 2020 games. He's doing really well. Yeah, Gardner-Webb's not the best opponent, but we've seen this team not be able to beat good opponents. So good for them for getting some confidence. That Northwestern win really helped them, and I'm interested to see how hard this team competes as we continue to go through ACC play.
This
this is going to be a barn burner of a game tonight too. I think from what I've seen from the U, I did scout him a little bit before tonight, Vince, and I think it's Champagnie is gaining momentum too in the eyes of like recruits and the national media. This one could steal the show in terms of competitive basketball that gets people excited for this season in the ACC.
Yeah, I think you got to get excited. I mean, Champagnie seems to be, one of the best players to come through Pitt in quite some time, probably in a decade, at least in terms of production. This guy's only 6'6", and he's grabbing 20 rebounds a game. That's impressive as far as I'm concerned. I think this guy is very good. And last year I was a little skeptical, but this year he's picked up right where he left off, and is as the star of this team. And Xavier Johnson and Adese Toney, they've been playing pretty well, I think, for the most part. They've been getting a lot of combined defensive efforts and rebounding efforts from their big guys, Hughley and Coulibaly, down low. And you got Jeffress, who's starting to play more and chip it in, Pam. So, yeah, I was very nervous about going against some of these gargantuan teams in the ACC. Thought they were just going to get killed down low, but it seems like they're starting to find a rhythm there and hold their own.
Yeah, and heart and effort, size definitely helps, but if you can continue to outwork your opponent, good things will happen on the basketball court.
Well, Pam, tonight we'll look out because speaking of heart and effort, they're going against two players that are guards, and they play with that Harlan Beverly and Isaiah Wong, guards who can rebound for the Miami Hurricanes. So this will be I'm telling you, a good test for that measuring the Pitt heart and effort on the boards tonight, which we've been talking about since the season started. So that this is a fun start to the season. After what was an abysmal first game, but getting their legs under them, maybe a little bit of swag, a little bit of confidence, and really a go-to guy. When was the last time Pitt had that, Vince? A go-to guy.
I would say a real go-to guy would be, a Sam Young or Levance Fields, a guy that you could really count on for a big basket and create their own shot. I think it's been that long since they had a real go-to guy. All due respect to some of the players they've had, come through here, a Lamar Patterson or a Brad Wanamaker. Those guys were decent players in their own right, but Champagnie's playing at another level right now.
20-20, baby. Think he goes for it tonight, Pam?
I don't think so. I think that'd be tough to do 3 times in a row, regardless of your opponent. But who knows?
Think about the hype train that's going to be on ESPN national media for Pitt Hoops, or at least for him, if he does something like that, though, tonight. That's the kind of attention you can get playing in the ACC. Women's basketball also got to mention they got Florida State. They're in the midst of ACC play, Pam, and they beat Clemson. They're 1-1 in the ACC right now.
Yeah, it was a great Clemson's not a great opponent. They lost to Virginia Tech. They played tough in that game, though. But the big thing was for the Panthers here, big fourth quarter comeback. They were down by 14 heading into the fourth quarter, and they scored 51 points in the second half. So the offense has definitely stepped up here for Lance White. They play Florida State on Sunday. Good program. Yep. Sue Summerall, the legendary head coach who Lance White coached for many years with, is actually not part of the Florida State team this year, took some time off to care for her mom. But Florida State, good opponent, a great measuring stick for this Panther program. And even when they lost to Virginia Tech, much more competitive. I really enjoy watching this team play. They're a fun team. They're a must-watch team because of the excitement and scoring they bring. What a turnaround from last year.
Yeah. They just haven't had the firepower offensively to compete with some of these teams in the ACC. And I really like the fact that, they're, you said Clemson, not a great team. Well, they went out and beat them. It was a tough game, but they went out and beat them. They were competitive against Virginia Tech. Hopefully they're competitive this weekend against Florida State, because, eventually you're going to have to go up against an NC State or Louisville, teams that are ranked in the top 5. They're going to be very difficult challenges. So you got to get every win that you can going up against these teams. And who knows, maybe Pitt could be flirting with maybe a 500 record in the ACC. We'll see.
Hoops, hoops, hoops is what it's all about now that football has ended. We're going to be covering a whole lot more of it. We do have our football review show next week, but basketball now in the midst of ACC play, and with winning actually happening, I mean, it's only going to get better on this show, talking about a winning team, hopefully, on both men's and women's. Let's follow it along, and hopefully Pitt beats the U tonight. And that's really going to be what this week's all about for me. I'm not looking forward to many sporting events other than that this week, Pam. I don't know. These in-laws are really talking a lot of trash, and I don't think they can name even Jim Larinaga. I don't know if they know anything about the Miami basketball team, but they are really talking a lot of trash to me. But nothing like what we see on the Pitternet. Of course not. It's unbeaten, undefeated. The Pitternet reigns supreme in terms of the best and most ludicrous Pitt talk. If you're ready to go into the digital space, Vince, I'm ready to get us there.
Yeah, let's do it. I had a hard time narrowing it down this week. I found a couple gems we need to save for next week as well.
All right, let's do it. It's time for some of that computer love.
Can you explain what internet is?
I hear there's rumors on the internets.
And to all those faceless keyboard warriors on Twitter.
But we're a good darn football team. I'm proud of these guys.
All right, Panther Guy 4 on Panther Lair said, my buddy and I argue about everything. We've been friends since high school. Of course, he went to PSU. I told him yesterday that I thought Kenny Pickett was one of the toughest college quarterbacks I have seen. He told me Clifford was 10 times tougher than Pickett. I told him Pickett would submit Clifford 2 minutes into an MMA match. What do you think? I think Kenny would destroy him. This sounds a lot like the argument that Billy Madison has with that kid about video games. I disagree. I think Mortal Kombat is the better game. I disagree. I think Kenny Pickett is the tougher quarterback. I got Kenny Pickett winning by Darce choke. How about you?
I agree. I'm guessing this would be contested in the light heavyweight division, and I think he would. He would win by submission, maybe a heel hook, because I could see. I could see Clifford trying to run away from him, and Pickett just grabbing him by the leg, making him tap out. Now he could, if you see this next thing, and Pam, I can't wait to hear you chime in on this. One of another poster on Panther Lair, Panther Holla, he responded to this, and this actually had me kind of nervous for this. He said the question is, would Pickett have to consult his corner between punches? And if Mark Whipple's in his corner, I suppose he's going to have to.
And then he's going to get tired. I think it'll play into whether this is a 3-round or a 5-round heavy or a championship match.
Now, would it also matter if it's in the 25-foot octagon or the 30-foot octagon?
Well, if Pickett has to keep running to the sideline every time, it absolutely matters.
Well, hopefully it's 25 feet then.
Yeah.
Or should he just not punch and just go for the takedown and make him give up?
I mean, it's obvious Kenny Pickett's the tougher quarterback. Who'd Clifford ever beat? Kenny Pickett has been doing this for years, and he's coming back for more. Let's see if this Sean Clifford, if he wants any more. Plus, they played less games in the Big Ten, and he lost a bunch. I guess coming back for another season there. I mean, seeing where their program's going, I don't know. You got to be maybe a masochist to be Clifford. Pug 35 on Panther Lair said, legitimately ruined all the excitement I had for signing day. NOC hunting. I'm upset. Is Pug 35 talking about Kenny Pickett returning?
Yeah, he is. I think a lot of people had these thoughts that And we were thinking him too, assuming Kenny Pickett's going to be gone, and saying, we need to, hopefully, they're going to make a change in their offensive system, and they're going to, do something drastically different. And they do need to do some better play calling. But I'll say this, that the play of Kenny Pickett and good execution by the offense, I think, will go much further than just a new play call.
It's all about who's playing on the field ultimately. Now, the running to the sideline stuff, the refusing to run the ball, that's goofy, but it's we've seen Pitt succeed doing some of it too. We've seen them do all right under Whipple, and I'm not gonna stray away from someone saying I was hoping for a new offensive coordinator, but if it means keeping Kenny Pickett, no one even presented that option to me because I didn't think it was even possible. Because I really figured, in this day and age, you go for that NFL contract. But Kenny Pickett must have been advised that he has a chance to up his stock, and knowing that you have a potential NFL prospect, that might make Mark Whipple step his game up, Pam, because we can't negate the things the guy's done in the past. He has coached some great quarterbacks to become even better quarterbacks in the past. And, maybe it was an off year for him. We don't know that. We can't assess a guy's career just based on one season too either.
Yeah, absolutely. I think maybe Whipple will try and mix things up and put Pickett in the best position to succeed here in 2021.
So Pug 35, you have to be hyped, especially with what Vince just broke down with the entire recruiting class. Like, there's excitement to be had. You can't dislike Mark Whipple's offense that much, I would hope. But it is the Pitternet, so I'm not going to put it past you. All right, if you're ready to come back to the real world now, Vince, I haven't been in the city for a while, but from what you've been telling me, what my good, close personal, longtime, dear, good friend Pat, who's been keeping an eye on my house, making sure I don't get robbed by the sticky bandits while I'm away, he's been telling me people are talking a whole lot about this Kenny Pickett returning around town.
A lot of people are talking about that, and hopefully you don't get visited by the wet bandits either. Yeah, now would not be a good time for that.
That'd be the worst.
Another Saturday coming, and the Panthers are playing, trying to find out what the Indians are saying.
You hear that Kenny Pickett's coming back for another season.
Yeah, see, I'm surprised because I heard that the Cowboys was going to draft him.
Nah, McCarthy would never do that. Yeah, he loves DiNucci kid too much.
Well, either way, you ain't going to win with no run game, no matter who the quarterback is. I don't care if he's going to break all Marino's records.
We got that Bushwick Bill, though.
Hail to Pitt.
What the Yinzers are saying.
So that's what the Yinzers are saying. A lot of people excited about Kenny Pickett coming back nonetheless, regardless of why or who or what.
More people are excited about Bushwick Bill, Vincent Davis.
Or are they more excited about Klondike Bill? Maybe that's a discussion for another podcast. But Alan, we got the conference championship weekend here upon us, and we're going to be finding out on Sunday who's going to be in the playoff.
Oh, college football playoff committee, especially you are just dumb. You are very dumb and ridiculous. You are just ridiculous. And I just never thought I would be as angry as I used to get at the BCS, Pam. But I have like a legitimate anger inside of my body that I want to be able to unleash somehow. I can't figure out the proper way to do it. I'm looking at this top 10 rankings. Nowhere do I see the USC Trojans, who are undefeated, about to win the Pac-12, but I still see Florida, who lost to a team that was ravaged by injuries and COVID and still beat them on the road in LSU. Florida 7. They only went down one freaking spot. Ohio State's hardly played any games. Why do we even play a season? And why do we even care about resumes when it comes to the playoffs anymore? This is worse than ever. I can't believe I'm saying that.
This ranking release was the worst in the history of the ranking releases. I can say that confidently and without any problems. I know this year's been really tough for the committee. Hats off to you for trying to do something. However, there are certain things we know. A really bad loss should drop you. The fact that Cincinnati, I know Cincinnati lost that game versus Tulsa, but they have.
No, they haven't lost at all.
No, I know. The game went away, I guess. They were going to play Tulsa twice, which would have helped them. However, I'm not advocating for Cincinnati to be in the top 4 here, but I am advocating for Cincinnati to be ahead of Georgia and Florida. I mean, if Cincinnati is going to be penalized for missing games, Georgia is going to be missing a game coming up here as well. Cincinnati dropped. The fact that Florida is in this top 10 is absolutely disgusting. This is the biggest piece of crap.
The worst loss
out of any team, maybe in the top 25 this year, you could say. I mean, I don't know. That's a big stretch, but
I would.
Out of the top 10, by far the worst loss.
And Cincinnati dropped without playing a game, and Iowa State moved up ahead of them without playing a game. We've been watching this, since its inception. These rankings, Pam, and Alan, she was so mad. You would have thought, the Phillies lost the World Series on a wild pitch or something. It was that bad. She was so mad about this.
I'm there.
Talking about how
I'm with you.
Iowa State with 2 losses is ranked 6th, even though a team you're very familiar with, Alan, UL, the Raging Cajuns, is only ranked 19th, and they beat Iowa State.
And I know these non-Power 5 schools, I'm always going to make the case for the smaller guy. And I'm, like I said, not advocating for these schools to get into the playoff, but show them some damn respect. I mean, they're going to use this as fuel. They're going to keep scheduling tough opponents, and they're going to keep beating them. No one wants to play them, which is a damn shame because they keep beating everyone, but they don't get the respect that they deserve.
Well, I've learned that a lot of what I've been told was true was a lie this week. It's not really the Power 5. It's more like the Power 4. The Pac-12 might as well be European soccer because they don't watch it. Nobody cares about it. USC, although they squeaked by UCLA, that's a rivalry game. They're supposedly in a Power 5 conference. They're going to play a conference championship game. They are undefeated. And if they win that game, why would they not be involved in the damn playoff is beyond me. When you have teams in there that have lost, you have teams in there that have not played an adequate number of games, if you ask me, and then you have teams even ranked ahead of them who aren't even going to be in the playoff. That's also a joke. So that's the one that's really upsetting me is that this is called the Power 5, but it really is only a Power 4. And if you really want to get down to it, it's really just a Power 3. And this is just a total. It's horse dung. I don't want to cuss on the show because I know we got little pitters listening. But damn it, Pam, I'm mad. I'm with you right here. This one has me as angry as I used to get at the BCS. That's all I could keep thinking about was my nightmares are returning.
And I don't know if USC should be in the top 4. Obviously not. Ohio State shouldn't be, though, because if the committee is penalizing USC for their strength of schedule, who the heck has Ohio State beaten?
Well, that's
the problem there. I mean, the Pac-12 is down, yes, but the Big Ten is really down, so that is an absolute disgrace.
I'll tell you something right now. Every team in the top 10 here should be ranked above Ohio State. I understand.
Not only because of the number of games they played, but who they beat.
Well, that's it. Yeah, they're a talented team. I understand. They're a talented team. I understand that, but it's not like they blew everybody away.
Well, look at the one decent team they played, Indiana. They struggled,
and that was a close game. And you want to talk about Southern Cal? I think if they would have looked more impressive in some of these games instead of just squeaking by, maybe they would be ranked much higher. But if you look, they played a good Arizona State team. They won on the road at Utah. They won at UCLA. yeah, they may have been fortunate to win some of those games, but they went up against good competition, better competition than what Ohio State played. And it's difficult to say, that a team that only won 5 games should be in the playoff, because that's one of the things about the college football season is that you got to win them all or just about in order to get there. And every game can be a trap. Look at Florida. That's a prime example. If that game was canceled, Florida against LSU, Florida would still be in the running to make the championship game. All they'd have to do is just beat Alabama. Now, if they beat Alabama, maybe they still get in, but maybe not, and they would have had a much better chance had that game just been canceled. It's unfair, actually, that the scheduling is just so wildly different.
Yeah, of course it's a pandemic. It's causing a lot of these issues, but with that said, because there's so much money wrapped in this, I almost think it's unfair to even have a college football playoff to Alabama. We should just revert to just play the traditional New Year's Day bowl games. And when Alabama comes out victorious in theirs, just reward them the championship. They're the best team, and it's not even close. I mean, I don't feel like there's a team even sniffing their level. I feel like this is all unfair to Alabama, and really you're betting on futures when you're putting Ohio State into the top 4. And you're telling us, committee, resumes don't mean jack squat. It's really about your futures, how you've recruited,
your brand,
how many NFL players you have in your team, your brand, and how much money you're going to make. So this is really, from what we've been told it was about, which is fairness and resumes. It's not. It's all about what it's been about, even in the BCS days. Brand, money, and futures. What's going to get eyeballs? What's going to get people talking? That's what it's all about. This is a total sham to me. Alabama's my national champion, and I don't care how many games they have to play to win it. They've already won it in my eyes, Pam, because these teams don't even come close to them.
Yeah, it's definitely. We'll talk about the games coming up here in a second, but I'm rooting for the most chaos. I want the most chaos in these next rankings, just so the committee has to answer some of these questions.
I mean, that would be fun too, but
answer the questions.
I'm just rooting for Nick Saban to just roll over everybody and then just go on a really great rant about how stupid it was he even had to play in any of these games.
Did you see Lane Kiffin doing his best Nick Saban impression being asked if he was going to take the job at Auburn? Did anybody see that?
No.
Well, his response was, "I'm not going to, so quit asking."
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm right now. I'm going to go on the record, and I'm advocating for June Jones to get that Auburn job. That's what should be happening. Which we need a little.
Well, maybe we'll be able to find that out later this week.
Yes.
But I do want to run through some of these championship games here. There's some interesting ones. It's going to start on Friday night. Alan, your Southern California Trojans, 3-point favorite against the Oregon Ducks, who shouldn't have been in this game. It was supposed to be the Washington Huskies.
Yeah, the COVID hitting the Huskies, and you got Oregon now in this spot. SC, another challenge in front of them. They are really where they've always been under Clay Helton, which is a team that's always in close games and squeaks out most of those as victories, but then will occasionally run into either a blowout loss or they'll stumble and lose one of those in their whole in terms of big bowl game hopes. That gets ruined. That's what the story's been. But now they're running the table. They've got one more hurdle to get over, and then they have their argument. And then, I mean, a lot of swag can come back to Los Angeles after this if they can have an undefeated season. It's great for college football when SC is really good, and it's hopefully coming back here. I mean, Snoop Dogg went on that rant after they lost to Alabama embarrassingly in the first game of the season a couple years ago. But I'm interested to see what the Dog Father says after they win the Pac-12 title. Pam, I don't know, but I'm definitely picking SC to squeak out against Oregon.
Yeah, I think SC is going to win here too as well in
Do
this
you?
game. Yeah.
I'm not sure. They keep seem to find ways to win. So maybe I shouldn't be fooled and just pick them.
Just pick them. Just pick them. Although I was nervous when they almost got in that fight with UCLA after the game, but Clay Helton was literally pulling guys off of guys before it got too out of control. But that was just a fun college football game to watch, USC UCLA. And that's what you got to take from this college football season. You got to just enjoy it while you're watching the games, knowing the committee's going to ruin the big picture, Pam. Enjoy these games. Like, enjoy Tulsa and Cincinnati if it happens. Or is it not happening, this AAC championship game? Is it on? Is it off?
No, it's happening. It's happening. They canceled last week's game. As of now, I mean, everything changes by the second. But as of now, it's happening. Tulsa, 14.5-point underdog. I think Cincinnati's going to crush them. I think Cincinnati's going to make a statement. And I think Cincinnati's going to control this game from start to finish and make this decision difficult for people.
I agree with you.
And if you're fickle, you're going to say, there's no chance Cincinnati's getting in. But hey, there's always hope if they blow out in a conference championship game. The Sun Belt championship game, which is this only the second or the third Sun Belt title game ever? They haven't had many of these. And the Cajuns are in it now against Coastal Carolina. This might be the most exciting of them all. Coastal Carolina, can they do it? Can they run the table and end up undefeated?
Yeah, and they changed the start time to this game, right? It's now 3:30.
Yeah, it's going to be it's a 3:30 start time. I can't wait to watch this one. This is probably the game I'm most excited for this weekend. The Chanticleers, they run that very interesting spread option attack that's like slow and methodical. That 3 in the hook there is interesting. But the Cajuns have been playing very well this season, Alan. I know you've been following the Cajuns very closely, and you've been talking to some people down in Lafayette about this game. I guess I'm going to lean with Coastal Carolina here, but I'm very nervous about it.
I mean, more than a Sun Belt title is on the line here for UL. I mean, a lot of Cajuns fans really believe that this could swing recruiting in the state of Louisiana from LSU to the Cajuns with a win and a better record and a better season than the Tigers. It quickly like that. Now, they're delusional, but this is a big game for a lot of people. And I'm telling you, it may be a pandemic, it may be COVID-19, but the partying and the insanity in Lafayette, Louisiana, if they win this game, it's going to be maybe the biggest party anyone had in America in 2020. Not that I advocate for that, Pam, but there's going to be a whole
Let's
lot
go
of
Coastal Carolina.
a whole lot of they're not going to be able to resist social. I don't know if social distancing is possible when you're that happy and there's that much Boudin and Zydeco to be played and eaten.
Is this going to be bigger than the Ozarks?
Bigger. This is going to be like that. Is it like that Ozark party, but bigger and with way more seafood and fried food?
Oh my goodness! I wish I could go to this safely, but I don't think that's going to be happening.
Not in the cards.
No. Big 12. Iowa State, a 5.5-point dog.
Some breaking news with this game. It was just reported that Iowa State will be wearing their all-black uniforms.
Good.
They've never lost with these uniforms, so something to take into consideration. Well, Iowa State will be wearing all black.
I don't. They could be out there naked, as far as I'm concerned. I'm picking Iowa State to win this game.
Why
are you sure?
They're not getting any respect. 5.5.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. They've lost to the Cajuns. They've been exposed to me in the past. And Oklahoma might have Bob Stoops finally on the sidelines again for this one, too.
Well, all right, that I will be monitoring to see if that actually happens. But Iowa State, they did beat Oklahoma earlier this year. I think Oklahoma's been, running up the score on some other teams. But, this, Breece Hall running the ball for Iowa State. And they do play a lot of tough defense, and I think they'll be going after that rat.
And Matt Campbell's really great as an underdog. This is exactly what he wants.
Yeah, I got no problem taking the 5.5 here. I really like the Clones.
All right, Northwestern 20.5 dogs against Ohio State. Is there Pam? You must be rooting for Ohio State then, because you want the chaos.
No,
Northwestern, because I think if Northwestern wins, there's no way Ohio State makes it in.
But then that makes it easy on the committee to keep them out then, right?
I don't know. Would a one-loss Northwestern Big Ten champion get in the playoff?
Well, they're not ranked in the top 10. I think teams. I don't think so. I don't. I'm rooting. I think because I think the committee has shown us time and time and time again that Ohio State is in unless they lose. And what? Yeah. I don't think, because them not having a game should have dropped them this week at least, but they didn't, or could have if they used the same reasoning for other teams. So I think if you want chaos, I think you got to go Northwestern, and then you have teams like Iowa State, A&M, Cincinnati, all jockeying right there with it. So it's a big number. It's 20.5, but Pat Fitzgerald will have his team ready to play. Easy. I don't know if they will upset them, but they will play them tough, and they will cover that 20.5.
They're good as an underdog team. There's no doubt about that. You got to think, though, Ohio State's going to be coming out here to step on the gas against this team if they can, because they do need they probably do need to win impressively in order to maybe hang on to that decision, especially, if an Iowa State would win the Big 12 or if a Texas A&M would blast Tennessee in this final contest. I think there is a chance that those teams would have an argument against Ohio State if Ohio State would squeak by.
And we should say the final committee rankings are Sunday at noon.
Yes.
So tune in and yell at your TV like I will be.
Yeah, get something squishy to throw, so you don't end up throwing like a whiskey glass or anything. You don't want to break it. You don't want to break anything.
We do. It would be nice if we had a new television. So throw whatever you want at us.
No way. No.
ACC title game, Notre Dame, despite beating Clemson early in the season, 10.5-point dog at the win right now.
I can't believe Trevor Lawrence is only worth 10.5 points here. How is Trevor Lawrence being in this game is a lot different. I would have thought it'd be at least 2 touchdowns.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Notre Dame, with those big tight ends, big guys, I think they've been impressive. I think they're going to be able to score some points here, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be enough. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to go out there and do what he does.
I got Clemson by 2 touchdowns.
Okay.
I got Clemson in a close one. I think Notre Dame's been impressive, and I think this, if you're into friendly wagering, I might stay away from this one. We'll see. Clemson's defense at times has been a little shaky. They've had some injuries too on the defense, so got to look at the reports coming out.
It's going to be fascinating if Clemson were to lose this game, because that kind of opens up the door maybe for another team to sneak in. Or would you put a one-loss Notre Dame team in the playoff, which I suppose they could? What's worth more, a one-loss Notre Dame team or a one-loss Texas A&M team?
Well, that's if Clemson wins. Yeah.
Well, I'm saying I think there's interesting parts on both sides.
Yep.
Do you think they'll revoke Kyle Trask's Zoom link to the Heisman ceremony if he goes scoreless against Alabama?
I don't know about that. I think he'll still be invited, but it's not looking good for his Heisman chances, and certainly ain't looking good for him in this game.
I think Mac Jones might be the leader in the Heisman room. I mean, if Trevor Lawrence comes out and just completely blasts Notre Dame, then that might be a case there. But I think it'll be interesting in the SEC how Mac Jones does. Alabama's 17-point favorite against Florida, and Alabama is just full throttling everyone, and they're just. I mean, the first half is kind of enjoyable to watch at times. So.
Well, I'll say this Devontae Smith for Alabama, to me, he's the one that should be winning this Heisman Trophy. This kid is just unstoppable. Alabama just very angry in beating teams by a lot. What I do find fascinating, though, is that before Florida lost LSU, they were a 14.5-point underdog. Now they're a 17-point underdog. I thought Florida had a chance in this game. And I don't think I should be swayed by the LSU loss. I mean, maybe the fact, maybe a little bit deflating that they are, but you got to think that the fact that they're ranked 7th, they didn't fall out of the top 10. So I still think they have a chance to make the playoff if things go their way. I think Alabama's going to win this game, but I do think Florida has a chance in this game. I don't know if I quite agree with I think there are some scenarios where it's a one possession game.
There is no chance in hell. You would need Kyle Trask to have a Joe Burrow-esque type performance. That ain't happening. You would need Florida to be able to bounce back from the embarrassment that they suffered last week. That ain't happening. And you would need Alabama to have an off game. That ain't happening. They have no chance. And talk about chaos. If Florida did win and Ohio State lost, that would be right up your alley, Pam. But I don't see any of it happening. Alabama is going to rip the doors off of Dan Mullen in Florida and Kyle Trask's Heisman hopes. And I'm going to love every second of it because I'm tired of that team.
Yeah, I think Alabama's just going to crush them. I don't know.
How's Alabama going to stop Kyle Pitts?
Is Pitts even going to play? He didn't play against LSU, so there we go. He might not even play.
Why would he play? Go to the NFL already. What do you have to gain in this game already? You already lost to LSU. It's over. Tap out, Florida. Tap out, Gainesville. You're done. That's college football's least likable team in 2020, if you ask me. A close second, Ohio State, Pam, but I've had it out for UF all season.
Yeah, Dan Mullen's said some weird things and it's just been a little odd at times. So I'm not a huge Florida fan, but Pitts is definitely the player. Pitts and Trask have been so impressive this year. So we'll see what happens. But a good slate of championship games here. Yeah,
it's going to be a really fun drive for me. I'm going to be driving back to the greatest city in the world, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, from Florida on this college football Saturday. So just really pray for good signal for me, Vince, as I watch all of these, and it's probably going to make my drive go by really fast.
How many screens are you going to have up in your car while you're driving?
Well, that's if I have strong signal, we could do up to 4, but I'm assuming this will just be 1. Don't want to be too distracted while driving, and yeah, it's going to be a hellacious college football Saturday, assuming all these games get played, and we hope everybody enjoys them, and of course enjoys the Pitt game that's on in 15 minutes. We got to wrap this thing up, Pam.
Yep. Hail to Pitt.
Yeah, one of a jam-packed show. I apologize to the listeners. We didn't get to everything we wanted to talk about this week, but we'll be back next week. We'll talk about more. I can't wait to do it, and hail to Pitt.
At H2P Show on Twitter, if you want to follow us on social media. We, of course, are on Panther there. We're on Reddit. We're talking Pitt with you on the Pitternet each and every single day, and we are here with a new episode for you each and every single week. So make sure you subscribe and leave those reviews on Apple Podcasts. Tell all your Pitt friends about the most hailingest Pitt show of them all, and we'll see you next week. Hail to Pitt, everybody.